Welcome to this week's edition of Pitstop with me, Jaco van der Merwe. I'm joined by Charles Bosch. At long last, we can bring you the very, very much highly anticipated news of the new full name Toyota Land Cruiser Prado. For the purposes of the rest of this episode, we'll refer to the new Prado.
Yes,
at last, after so many pictures, after seeing it so many times, touching it, feeling it. Charles, on the launch recently in Mozambique, you had the chance to actually climb in, start the damn thing and drive it.
Yeah.
Before we go any further, does it live up to all the hype?
Yes, it does.
Okay, now you can elaborate.
Okay, it really does live up to the hype. If you can, just with context, when we stopped at the airport, and we all know of all the number of grey imports and so on that's allowed outside of South African borders, it was this whole standout thing. It was even trouncing some of the grey imports that even the most...
You're talking about the fleet, the media.
Yeah, I'm talking about the media fleet standing outside.
And how many of the vehicles were in that fleet?
There was about, I think it was 11 units were there. So.
And were they a mixed bag between the standard edition and
Yes.
the first edition? So the first edition's got the little round lights.
Yes.
Standard one's got the rectangular lights.
All three derivatives were there, the base TX, the VXR, and then the first edition. The first edition being based on the VXR with a couple of differences, as you mentioned.
Quite a limited run only. We'll get to that just
Yes,
now. Yes.
yeah, well, I can mention there's 300 first editions have been allocated for South Africa, and everyone has been sold out already.
Probably well in advance, I would guess.
Completely well in advance. I mean, Prado had its first month last month, a full month in terms of sales. 694 units were sold, which is a record for Prado, which we haven't seen in a very long time. So, well, ever, if I can remember. So it has been a hit.
Yeah, and for a car over R1 million,
Yes.
if I can recite that dude on that old commercial, not shabby, eh, Noy?
Yeah.
We're talking about that. Just quickly take us through the pricing and the grading.
Pricing with the 1.2, I think, for the basic
For the TX level, yeah.
Then it goes up to 1,448,000 for the VXR, and then the first edition 1,462,000. And there's a little bit of a premium that came with the first edition, which was a two-tone roof option. So the there's a color called sand beige, which we'll probably see on Hiluxes and so on. That was an exclusive color that you can have on the first edition, paired with a white roof.
And it looks very, very nice with the round lights in front.
I'm not a big fan of the dual tone
Yes.
roof option. I prefer the monotone roof option. But yeah, that dual tone roof option was, I think, about a 12,000 Rand optional extra, if I can remember correctly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you've mentioned many things have changed on it. One thing that didn't is that very, very tried and trusted 2.8 GD6 turbo
Yes.
diesel engine,
Yep.
making the same outputs, 150 kilowatts power and 500 Newton meters of torque, but not with a familiar 6-speed automatic we've come to know in the Hilux and the Fortuner and the outgoing Prado. Tell us about that. 8-speed automatic.
Brand new 8-speed automatic, yeah. I will quickly clarify this. We did ask Toyota about the possibility of a bigger engine or a hybrid powertrain, mild hybrid, as used in the Hilux and the Fortuner. It's not at the moment. There's plans, but at the moment it's not going to happen.
Well, if they're selling everything they have, there's no...
There's no. We also asked about a more powerful engine. The Prado does have a Lexus derivative in America called the Lexus GX, which might or might not be coming to South
That
Africa.
2.4 litre turbo petrol engine.
That's a 3.4. Sorry, 3.5, but it's actually 3.4 litre displacement.
That's the one from the LC300.
That's the
Elsewhere is the 2.4.
Yeah, so you get a 2.7 litre petrol in the Prado, which is definitely not coming to South Africa. The 2.7 that's used in the Hilux.
That very old one from...
Yeah,
okay.
It's still being used. That's
also in the IS.
Yes, also in the highs. That's not coming because, as Toyota said, that's a very, almost if I can say, a UN spec vehicle. So that's not coming.
Okay.
And we did ask, is there going to be a replacement for the old Prado's 4-litre V6? And they said no, not for the moment. And because they are thinking of introducing, as I said, the GX, and the GX's USP will most probably be that 3.5, let's say 3.5 litre engine. So then, to avoid clashing with the Prado, they will probably introduce that. So For the moment, no hybrid, mild hybrid system. 2.8 litre diesel only, and no petrol engine, no 2.4 as we from America. And yeah, connected to the 8-speed box, and it is quite a bit of improvement over the old 6-speed. You get paddle shifters on the first edition, but we were doing driving around on the highway in Mozambique after we did the off-roading and so on. We were averaging around about 8.5 to 9 litres per 100 kilometers, which is acceptable for a vehicle of that.
Yeah, what I was about to say is that for such a heavy vehicle, and compared to Hiluxes and Fortuners, that is better than a Hilux and a Fortuner, not the standard one.
Yeah.
Similar powertrain coupled to the 6 Auto. So those 2 extra gears, obviously, it will give you more leeway top end when you're doing on the highway. It will bring the consumption down a bit.
Yeah.
And also at the bottom end, it's good for the off-roading. The ratio's there. So take us through that off-roading. I believe you had some lacquer conditions there, mud, sand, everything you can wish for.
We did. It was near Ponta de Oro where we stayed. They laid out a off-road course for us, a sand section with very, very thick sand. By the time we came there in the convoy, it was badly cut up. It was almost trench-like in certain areas. But we powered through it. Yes, I will admit I did get stuck a little bit, but that was my own fault because
driver error.
Driver error, complete driver error, because I was not giving enough momentum. So all the four-wheel drive techniques that my father taught me over the years went out of the window. Sorry, Dad. So my driving partner managed to go through the course without any issues whatsoever. And then the second one was a very heavy mud-laden section in the Mozambique savannah.
Sounds good.
It was incredible. We were in the first edition, so when unfortunately one of our colleagues got stuck in the mud again because of a lack of too much momentum, but it was also very brittle in areas. There's mud pool. It was very rocky in certain areas, so I can understand you don't want to damage the vehicle. And by the time we came through, I just said, there's no way I'm going to get stuck, and just floored it through the mud, and the car was completely caked in mud. But we managed to get through it. Fortunately, all the cars, with the exception of one, managed to get through it. Part of the course was a lot of sand driving as well, heading to our overnight area away from the tarmac. So it coped very, very well. And given that on the drive there, the tyres were not deflated, on the off-road sections it obviously was, and it did very well. There was no a lack of power, no lack of torque or whatever. It was just a case of keeping the momentum up, keep the, which we'll mention now, the new drive mode selectors that you get, and multi-terrain select system, sorry, which you get in the first edition and the VXR. Keep it in whatever the selected mode and just keep the momentum up, and it effortlessly went through it all.
Fantastic. Let's just quickly, before we wrap up, get to that segment. We were saying price between 1.2 and just over 1.4 million. What does it compete with there? Because previously I know Toyota was on record when it received a little facelift from the new engine 4 years ago or so. They stated, actually, funnily enough, it's kind of in a league of its own back then.
It is a little bit. It still is. There's nothing really. I know there was, they claim to be a Land Rover Defender rival in a way, which you can argue is exactly the same. I mean, ladder frame chassis and so on. I must just correct myself. Defender is based on the ladder frame chassis. For a moment there, my mind just went blank. But I mean, Prado is still a ladder frame chassis. Same platform as the Land Cruiser 300. Platform that will be used by the next Hilux and Fortuner. It is in a way on its own. You cannot compare it to a Defender 90 because it's only got 5 doors versus 3, and it doesn't. It's a bit shorter than a Defender 110 yes, in profile. So there isn't really anything like that. Okay. And it's kept its position. I know one of its main rivals supposedly is Ford Everest, but Toyota have also said they don't really see that. They still view Everest as very much a Fortuner rival. So if from that point of view, there really isn't anything like that. Low range transfer case, seating for 7, which I will now say, thank goodness, the seats no longer fold next to the walls. They now fold flat into the floor, and it has an incredible effect, and you get a split tailgate as well now on the VXR in the first edition. So they've really thought of the little things to
where
make
it
this,
used to be the barn door.
No, it was a normal flip open tailgate.
The outgoing Prado.
Yes, I think low spec models, I believe, had the barn door, if my memory serves me correctly. But no, it's now a one-piece flip-up tailgate on the TX, and then a split tailgate, which the rear window opens on the VXR and the first edition. And an electric tailgate, the big electric tailgate, is standard across all derivatives.
Fantastic.
And I will just say the only real bugbear, because we were struggling really to find fault, was the infotainment system, which is not really one of the best. It looked a bit dated and so on, but you will get used to it after a while. Ride was good. We drove really, really well. So in all, it has been worth the wait, and the 694 people who bought it, I think, are very pleased.
Yeah, and I'm sure them and all the other thousands who wants to buy it, when you just now said something about the infotainment system, they went.
Yes, that's unfortunately true, yes.
Yes. So we're very excited to get one on test, hopefully soon. And as always, road test editor Mark Jones, he'll take it to Gerotech. We'll give you a bit of high performance test data results and also how it performs in everyday life. Thank you so much for listening to us this week. You can share this podcast if you liked it, of course. You can also like it, and you can decide to follow the Citizen News' YouTube channel, and then stay tuned every week for news out of the automotive world. That was it from me, Jaco van der Merwe, and Charles Bosch for this week's edition. Thank you for listening.